All right. So as we have, let's just do a quick review of what we've been learning about forgiveness here, all the way from the beginning. Just as a way just to drive these points home, or maybe you missed them earlier. But in order to forgive others, first we should remind ourselves of how God forgives us. First, we realize He's holy, He never sinned. And He loves people enough and offers forgiveness every single time. He's faithful to do that. He promises to do that. He doesn't just, He does not have to do that, but He loves us enough to do that. And He forgives completely, even of the sins we fail to ask for forgiveness for. And we need to know that because in part 2, last week, we learned that we should try to live our lives like Jesus. We should try and do that same thing for other people, forgiving other people, just like Him. And last week, we kind of interpreted forgiveness, how it's a feeling, no longer feeling angry or wishing to punish them. It doesn't mean that there's no consequences. And it doesn't mean that you forget. Okay? And so things that some people misinterpret the meaning of forgiveness. And so, but we should remember how much God forgave us. And that should be our motivation to forgive others. All right. And now for today, I want to move into like ways that we can forgive others, ways that we can apply this. And I just want to remind you, there is no perfect church. We are all sinners. We're going to hurt each other. I'm going to say things and do things that you don't like. I'm going to hurt you. I'm a sinner. And you are also going to say and do things to me. No matter what church, where you go, you're going to get hurt. We're all sinners. But this, if you can implement this forgiveness into your life, I cannot tell you how much it will greatly benefit in your life and in all your relationships. From your neighbors to your family, your parents, your uncles, your friends, your boyfriend, your marriage. You get married. And as we talk about these different ways, hopefully that will come out. I just cannot encourage you enough. Developing this skill of forgiveness into your life is not only needed, but it will greatly benefit your relationships. And so even as for us as a church, as we're growing, we're going to need to implement this into our lives to forgive each other. And so here are just a couple of ways the Bible tells us to forgive. But before that, let's remember we're very big on the first and second greatest commandments. The second greatest commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. We love people. Okay? We love people. And forgiveness is a big part of loving them, being patient with them when they sin against us. To be patient, be humble. But I want to really point out forgiveness is a big part of love. But here's one of the main things, and you can write this down on your phone or whatever, but here's a big benefit of forgiveness. That the sins and offenses against you are the trials that perfect you. Okay? The sins that happen against you are happening in your life to help you become more mature and complete into the person that God wants you to be. And let me just show you a couple scriptures just to prove this point. Okay? And this should hopefully change your attitude a little bit about these trials and these difficult situations and against the people who hurt you. But from James chapter 1, 2 to 4, use the reference, James chapter 1, 2 to 4. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, when someone sins against you, would be a trouble of any kind. When somebody does something says something that hurts you. It says, consider it an opportunity for great joy. Why should I consider that great joy? For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. When your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, not needing any. See, these trials, these sins, these are opportunities for you to grow into this perfect person, not needing any. And so get excited when people sin against you. Yes. Yeah, you called me an idiot. Great. I'm not quite like that. But all right. But I think you get the point. Trials, when people sin against you, gives you an opportunity to forgive, to grow more like God. Remember last week, we should strive to live our lives like Jesus. And that gives us an opportunity to exercise forgiveness and to grow. Another one. This is 2 Corinthians 12. You can see that, hopefully. It should be 10, 9 and 10. Yeah. So each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. Now here it is. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in insults. Taking pleasure in getting insulted and people say mean things, hurtful things to him. Why? Because it gives God an opportunity to work through his weakness, hardships, persecutions, troubles that I suffer for Christ. When I am weak, then he's strong. So these are opportunities for you to grow into this person that God wants you to be. And now you can either grow in that and grow into the person that God wants you to be, or you can let these offenses just sit in you and destroy your life. The anger, the bitterness, the hate, they will literally destroy your life. But God doesn't want that. He loves you. And once we said earlier that even businesses and medical doctors are seeing this, that forgiveness is so powerful that they're even implementing in their businesses for their coworkers to apply. And even medical doctors, psychiatrists are even prescribing forgiveness rather than medicine, because it has such a great power. So as we can look at a couple of these different ways, remember this point. These sins and offenses are the trials that are there to help you grow and perfect you into the person God wants you to be. So first way, number one, is you can forgive the person without even talking about it to them. All right, just as a way of example, maybe you have a roommate and you guys both agree, well, after you eat, you wash your dishes and clean up your mess. Okay, now the situation arises where your roommate left a mess, left their dishes there. And now what? Now we have a problem. Right? So you could implement this way and just say, well, maybe they had a bad day. Right? And you know what? Let me take this as an opportunity to love them, to serve them, and let me just clean up the mess for them. And no problems. I won't forgive them. I won't let this get me angry. I'll let it go. No big deal. Okay? Right? You see how that works? And you can forgive the person without even talking. And that could be an action, or maybe somebody says something bad to you, you don't like. And once again, you can apply the same principle. I won't, it's fine. I won't make a big deal out of it. Let me be understanding, just overlook. We all have good days and bad days. I just forgive, let it go. Okay, so that's one principle. You can just do that without even talking about it. Not getting angry, not letting that cause problems. Okay? Well, there's our cleaning dishes example. Number 2, let's go to Matthew 18:15 and see, because now after, if that part, it doesn't work, and everybody's different. Some people are able to do that pretty quick, forgive without talking to a person, but others are not that way. And the Bible gives us instructions on what to do next. If the offense is so serious that you can't overlook it, let's look at verse 15. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. So the principle here, the second way, if you're unable to just overlook the sin, then you have to talk about it. You have to go to that person and talk about it. Notice it says privately. Now, does that mean I should go over to my buddy Dalton and say, man, can you believe this? How can this person not clean their dishes? Every single time, they always doing this and what and what and what. And me and Dalton are just talking about this. But then I don't go to the person. Isn't that common? Is that correct? Should that be what we do? Absolutely not. And sometimes some people will tell me and talk about an issue. And one of the things that I'll respond with to people is I'll just say, have you talked to the person about that? They're quick to come and tell their problems and their issues with me or other people. But they're not quick to go and talk to the person themselves. But I want to point out, this is hard to do, isn't it? It's much easier just to say, I didn't like what Mike said there, so I'm going to go over to another church. No, I don't like. Rather than talking about it and being uncomfortable, let me just run away. I'll just go somewhere else. Find a better place. Isn't that common here? It's common everywhere. But the truth is, we're all sinners. You're not going to find a perfect place. What will be best is finding a place that is so serious about forgiving each other. And here's how it works. Here's how it benefits. If I say something that offends, which happens a lot, I come from a different country, a different culture. I've offended many people with their African culture and traditions. But then you come up and say, Mike, and you said this. And I really didn't like that. What you've just done is helped me see an error of my ways. And now I can say, wow, I never knew that. I'm terribly sorry. I really did not mean to hurt you. But now that I know that this hurts, you just served me and helped me become better, because now I won't do that. Now, and the more that we offend each other, the more you see how we get closer and closer like Jesus. Because things that we're doing wrong are being revealed to each other. And we're helping each other. Like, wow, I didn't realize you didn't like when I said that. Now I won't say that anymore. And I've learned from my mistake. And so the more that we do that, the more that we offend each other, this principle comes into place. You become more perfect. We learn more about each other and we realize what hurts each other and what each other doesn't like. And then we can help become more and more holy, more and more not in a way that offends each other. Do you see how that makes sense? But this is really hard to do. It's really hard to confront something. We talk about how this forgiveness benefits our marriage and even your friendships. But even after a marriage, after you offend each other so much, you learn so much about each other that you just start to do those things that don't even cause any more problems. Because you're both trying to be like Christ. And then eventually you learn so much about each other and you know each other so well, and you hardly ever forgive you or hardly ever need to forgive each other because you already know each other so well, what you like, what you don't like. And then marriage is just awesome, just smooth and flowing. But it comes by making this hard choice. Talking about it. I can't emphasize this enough because I know how hard it is. But you guys got to learn. Just talk about it. Sit down privately. Let the other person know. Give that person an opportunity to learn, to overcome that sin, and so that they don't repeat it again. I hope that makes sense. And I hope that will really just go a long ways. All right. Last one here. Number 3, let's read Matthew chapter 5, 23 through 24. So these forgiveness, it helps us become more perfect. The first way we can we just overlook this sin. We forgive without getting angry. The second way is we talk about it. Now this one here, okay, where are we at? What was the reference? Yes, it's here. Okay. Verse 23 and 24. Now here, this is a little different situation. But let's just read the passage and we'll go from it. This is Matthew 5, 23 through 24. So if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, and you remember that someone has something against you. Okay, so notice this is before God. This is impacting their relationship with God. They're before God at the altar in the temple. But then you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, that you offended someone. Notice the instruction. Leave your sacrifice there. Go and be reconciled to that person first. Then come and offer your sacrifice to God. And here's the main point. You know, our offenses with each other impact our relationship with God. Sin hurts our relationships with people and with God. Our vertical relationship with God and our relationships with others. And notice the instruction, even before coming to God, you should first make things right with the person. So here's the third point. Ask for forgiveness before the person even comes to you. Before they even come to you, if you realize, oh man, that person, I probably offended that person. And maybe they're just trying to do part one here. Maybe they're trying to overlook it. But then you humble yourself and love your neighbor as yourself. Try to be more like Jesus and say, wow, Philemon, man, I realized that I said this the other day, and I think I might have offended you. And I really just want to ask for your forgiveness for that. I realize I said that, and I don't want that to come between us. I just want to ask for your forgiveness. Even before maybe you're overlooking it, or even maybe before you're even thinking about, should I go to Mike about this? Should I go talk to him privately? Rather, the mature person can even just go to that person, reconcile, fix the relationship, even before they have an opportunity to come. That's hard to do, isn't it? Has anyone ever had someone do that to them? Someone come up to you, ask for forgiveness? No one. Just okay, a couple. All right. But man, isn't that a great friend, a loving relationship tries to solve problems? And that's what forgiveness can be. That's what will make us a great church. That's what will make us the salt and light and have an impact on our friends, on our neighbors. See this loving community where we care about each other. We don't want to hurt each other. We forgive so that we can become the person God wants us to be. So with that, here are a couple of just possible applications for you to consider. Do you need to talk to someone about a sin and give them a chance to ask for your forgiveness? Going to them privately and not going and telling a friend and gossiping and complaining about this person and what they did. Do you need to make that application? Or how about you? Did you sin against someone? And do you need to humble yourself and go to them and apologize and reconcile that relationship so that your relationship with God is not impacted? Forgiveness will perfect you. It'll perfect you. It'll perfect each other. It'll help us. This is a way to serve each other. Let each other know, man, you did this, you said this, it offends me. And we help each other by not doing and saying those things anymore. And we become more enjoyable to be around. Because we're growing, becoming more like Christ, not offending each other. It's a beautiful thing. And it will help create wonderful relationships around you. Marriage, co-workers, your fellow students. It will be a beautiful thing. And I hope that you see that. And I hope that this motivates you to forgive. All right, so with that, let's have a word of prayer in closing. And we'll end it there.